like would want you to know about them?
Well, we don't have to do so much for us to know about them. Like I said, you just go out in the streets and you see children begging on your windows. You see the elderly tapping on your windows. You see the slums all around you. You see people hawking in the middle of the street. So you don't have to say the word. It's very obvious that they want us to know that they're really lacking in so many things. If, for example, if you go to an urban poor household, and you see not only do they lack the basic services, but when it comes to health, for example, you see that many of them are suffering from respiratory diseases or skin diseases because of the lack of hygiene and everything. So they want to tell us that they're suffering terribly and they need our help. They need the government's help.
How can we eradicate poverty in our country?
Oh, that won't happen in my lifetime, and I don't think it's going to happen in yours. Because poverty takes willpower, and unfortunately in our country, it also takes political will. Politics plays a major role here, and the population growth is not helping us. Several years ago, the United Nations Population Fund gave up on the Philippines because, one is because the Catholic Church is not allowing us to do. Sorry, I'm not trying to make a stand here, but the Catholic Church does not allow reproductive health bill to pass. So the population growth is really one of the major reasons. Sorry, I should have mentioned this a while ago. Why we have poverty? So there are more young and there are more unproductive citizens. So we don't have a welfare society to cater to them. So that's why they're poor. And so I guess one way to eradicate it, number one, is to come up with relevant programs. Relevant programs that really cater to bringing basic services into the household. Secondly, there has to be political will. In number three, the most important is corruption has to stop. Because based on a study conducted by some international organization, they say that 300 billion pesos of the budget of the government is going down the drain to corruption. So if you could get the 300 billion and put in a good social development program, you can probably help start the eradication of poverty. We can alleviate it, but it's impossible right now to eradicate it, given the situation we are in.
Sir, how do people escape poverty?
Escape poverty? I don't think you can escape poverty. Well, I know one very, very good way of escaping poverty is to commit suicide. But escaping poverty it really depends on the person. Again, it depends on your willpower as an individual. There was this question about how can one participate in the market. There is a study being done in business school. Does everyone have everyone definitely has a capability, but if you do not have the willpower, you cannot be part of the market. So I know people who started really very, very poor, but because they had the willpower and they pursued their dream, they became successful. But for example, in Mindanao, if you go to the area of Pulo, the Tausugs, many of them are really lazy. They're contented with just sitting around and counting the vehicles that passes by the road. How can you escape poverty if you just stare at the vehicles passing by or stare at the people passing by? So most of them just shoot themselves. That's the easy way to escape poverty. But the other way is you really have to work hard for it. And if you do, I think you'll escape it.
What resources need to be in place for us to help those in poverty?
Number one, you need the funds to be able to do that. So the government really has to start doing strategic budgeting. Right now, I think the biggest budget is, DepEd, the Department of Education, and I think that the Department of Social Welfare and Development is not really one of the top agencies that was given a big share of the pie. But I think the first thing is you have to develop the institutions. Like you have to come up with institutions that can make for example, people who are just staying in the house be more productive. Like for example, microfinance institutions are providing funding for the women who still stays in the home to be productive by coming up with small-scale businesses, something like that. You have to train the households to be more productive by doing capacity building in terms of new skills that they can use, for example, to find jobs abroad. So you have to provide the venue for these people. You have to make them productive, because if they are productive and they're sitting in the house or looking at the sky, looking out the window, then how can you earn money? How can you provide for your family? So
What are the barriers to helping people in poverty?
what are the barriers? I've been in social development for more than 10 years now, and one of the barriers, sometimes some of the policies of the government, instead of making it easy for you to donate, is even making it difficult for you. Like for example, if you want to raise counterpart funding from the government as a non-government organization, you have to put up your surety bond. You have to come up with a down payment, and that's crazy. We're not suppliers. We're giving money, but we're asking the government to add to that money. But it's making it difficult for us. So I guess one of the barriers is policies of the government in terms of having the private sector help those under the poverty line. Secondly is what you call our culture. The Filipinos sometimes are sort of laid back and contented. In the National Rural Electrification that we did, we made a survey, and in the survey we were expecting the number one the number one benefit that the households had out of the solar power that we put in is lighting and helping in livelihood and helping the children in education. But no, the number one benefit that they identified is entertainment. And the first thing that they put in is a video okay. So I guess the Filipinos, it doesn't matter if their families don't have anything in it, but as long as they sing at night, everybody's happy. So I guess it's the contentment level of the Filipinos. If you look at, for example, during the Ondoy floodings, there were, at the same time, Myanmar was also being flooded. But if you look at the camera of the people walking in the flood in the Philippines, you see them laughing, waving at you, jumping up and down. If you look at the picture in Myanmar, everybody's like, somebody died in the family, nobody's smiling. So I guess it's the contentment of the Filipinos. So in our language, mabawang kaligayahan natin. So siguro what we have to do is to increase it.
What one thing can I do as an individual to help eliminate poverty?
Well, for one thing, for you, you have to work hard to be productive yourself and not be part of the poverty line. At the same time, if you achieve that level, then maybe you can help out by probably getting a career in social development or trying to donate to an institution who helps the poor. But then again, in what we're trying to do right now in the social development movement here in the Philippines is we'd like to veer away from philanthropical intervention and and help them be more productive. What you call, teach them how to fish and not give them the fish, because in doing so it's more sustainable. If you if you give them the fish, they eat it, and after that they ask more from you. But if you make them more productive, it can sustain them for quite some time until they move out of the poverty line. So that's how it has to be if you want to alleviate or eradicate poverty here in the Philippines.
So that ends our discussion. Mr. Roderick De Castro, thank you. We really learned a lot about poverty in the Philippines.